The 1960 World Series, pitting Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris's dynastic New York Yankees, winners of 7 of the previous 11 World Series, against Roberto Clemente's Pittsburgh Pirates, is perhaps the most fascinating 7-game stretch of baseball ever played. The Yanks enter as understandably heavy favorites to be crowned champions, but in Game 1, Pirates second baseman Bill Mazeroski, who'd hit just 3 homers across his final 452 regular season plate appearances, goes yard in the 4th inning to lead his team to a 2-run win. New York responds with a vengeance in Game 2, flexing their muscles at a 13-run win so thorough it has Mantle lamenting his 2 towering blasts. In Game 3, the Yanks open the floodgates from the jump when Bobby Richardson goes from bunting foul to slamming grand. Poor Mickey remains unable to catch a break, regrettably mashing another dinger whose value is again minimized in the throes of yet another blowout Yankee win as their coronation seems inevitable. But Pittsburgh bounces back, squeaking by with a 1-run win in Game 4, thanks in large part to not 1 but 2 late Yankee smashes that seemed destined to be homers, only to come agonizingly close and ultimately coming up empty. The Yankees have now outscored the Pirates by 20 runs, yet the series is knotted at 2 games apiece. In Game 5, the Bucs parlay an early Yankee error into all the damage they need in a 5-2 win that stakes them to a 3-2 series lead. New York again responds by not just beating Pittsburgh, but absolutely dismantling them in a 12-zip blowout. The normally light-hitting Richardson continues his transformation into Hulk with a couple triples in this one that lift his RBI total just this series to 12, which remains the all-time record for a single World Series. At this point, his Yanks have outscored the Buccos by 29 runs in a series knotted at 3 games apiece. As massive as the run differential gap is, this one's going to require a 7th and final game for all the marbles. This episode is presented by T-Mobile, now the best network in America according to Ookla Speed Test. Go to T-Mobile.com/network to see how. Appropriately capping an outrageous back-and-forth series is an outrageous back-and-forth finale. Down 3 through 5 innings, the Yanks use a big 6th to jump in front. With the Bucs finding themselves down 3 entering the bottom of the 8th, a larynx-bashing, double-play-killing bad hop followed later in the inning by an uncovered first base sets the table for Hal Smith's 2-out, 2-strike heroics that spring them from behind into a multi-run lead. Down to their final 3 outs, New York manages to rally to tie the game in the 9th inning of the 7th game. In the bottom half of the frame, Mazeroski, who despite not being a home run hitter has already hit a crucial one this series, is set to lead off. At this moment, the Yankees have outscored the Pirates by 29 runs when no one had ever outscored their opposition in a World Series by more than 20 runs. Cumulatively, this has been a demolition. And yet, the outcome very much hangs in the balance. Into the batter's box steps Mazeroski, who takes a first pitch ball. Pitch 2 is a high fastball, which Maz drives into the left field bleachers, living out the lifelong fantasy of every ballplayer to walk off Game 7 of the World Series, and to this day, the only such dinger in the Fall Classic's winner-take-all ballgame. Perhaps the most legendary home run in the history of organized baseball to cap perhaps the most legendary game in the history of organized baseball. So at the time, no team had ever drubbed their opponent so thoroughly across the entirety of a World Series like the Yanks just did. No one else had ever even come close to their final mark of plus 28, and yet they still figured out a way to lose the dang thing. The Pirates somehow won more games, and words written in the moment about that series prove extremely prescient. This series truly belongs in a bizarro world. Even looping in the 63 and counting World Series that followed 1960s, not many clubs had ever posted such a high run differential. Actually, barely any did. Okay, none did. Throughout the first 120 World Series ever played, basically no team even came close, let alone to have not even emerged as champions. You'll have to forgive how smushing this to fit in each of MLB's first 240 pennant winners has turned Washington and Pittsburgh here into W shit. And the back-to-back years in 2016 and 17, when both series featured both teams scoring the same amount of cumulative runs as each other, did me no favors here, but nevertheless, this underscores just how lofty a throne upon which those 1960 Yanks sit. How to this day, no one but the 0-1 Diamondbacks have even topped plus 20 in a World Series, and they only got as close as plus 23. Fascinatingly enough, while those D-backs ultimately prevailed as champs, they only did so by the very, very slimmest of margins on the very razor's edge. They could so easily have been at plus 21 and in red, which would have meant each of the top 2 most dominant series performances by run differential would have been completely for naught. So as it stands, those with the second highest mark all the way through the 49th highest mark won the series. Gotta drop all the way down to the 96 Braves, who are tied for 50th here with a World Series run differential of plus 8 to find the next highest figure that failed to result in a title. And since naturally every World Series features the 2 participants' run differential displayed as mirror images of each other, that means all those same dynamics and that context surrounding the Yanks' run differential being that high and still losing, of course applied to the Pirates' run differential being that low and still winning. But it's funnier to focus on it from the Yankees' angle, so let's frame things from their perspective. They absolutely took the Pirates behind the woodshed with 3 different bludgeoning victories by at least 10 runs. No other pennant winner has ever even had 2 such wins in a World Series. And yet despite unleashing utter destruction in a trio of blowout wins, they failed to win by even 1 run, even one of the other 4 games. For more evidence of how staggering such an outcome 1960's World Series represented, since the 1969 advent of the League Championship Series, there were 110 LCSs played up through 2024. None of them featured such a disparate run differential gap, period, let alone to also have such a counterintuitive result. In fact, each of the 35 highest run differentials in an LCS occurred in conjunction with winning that series. For the highest run differential that failed to result in securing the pennant, you gotta drop down to the 93 Braves squandering the NLCS with a run differential of plus 10 against Philly. In the American League specifically, the run differential chalk is quite conspicuous. Only once has an ALCS winner been outscored by more than 2 runs in the series, and even that was when the 04 Bo Sox overcame being a mere 4 runs underwater across their iconic 3-0 comeback against the Yanks. This also isn't just bizarre within the context of a sample confined to a playoff series. In none of the ensuing 64-plus regular seasons did any big league squad ever play a 7-game stretch marrying such a high run differential with a losing record. Worth mentioning, however, is that 24 years before that 60 World Series, the Yanks pulled off a 7-game stretch in May where they clobbered their opposition by 37 runs, meaning by over 5 runs per game, and had a losing record to show for it. Meanwhile, on the other side of the coin, throughout the 64 regular seasons that followed the Pirates somehow winning 4 of 7 games with a minus 28 run differential, no one but the June 23 Rockies ever got outscored by more than 28 runs across any 7-game stretch while still maintaining a winning record in that time. But as to New York, there even exists an 11-year period of time surrounding the 60 series, stretching from 1956 through 66, in which no team at any point in any regular season played a 7-game stretch in which they had a run differential as high as plus 28 while simultaneously losing even 3 games. So not only did the 60 Yankees do so right smack dab in the World Series, they did so with a 4th loss to boot. To provide some more perspective of how difficult it is to simply play a 7-game stretch in general with such a high run differential, regardless of number of losses, in 2020, neither team that won the pennant had such a high run differential across any 7-game stretch, period. Hell, the American League champion Rays never even reached plus 20 across a 7-game stretch. But Alex, 2020 was a truncated season, so there weren't as many opportunities. Okay then, allow me to direct your attention to the fully complete 1987 season where neither pennant winner cobbled together such a stretch. Same with 1963 and 1916. MLB even once had back-to-back seasons in 81 and 82 in which the World Series champ never reached such lofty run differential heights in any 7-game stretch. Ditto for 4 straight title winners from 62 to 65. Gil Hodges once fronted a champion as both a player with the 59 Dodgers and a manager with the 69 Mets, in which neither squad ever did so. And here are some other squads who played their entire championship season without ever doing so. George Brett's 85 Royals and Sandy Koufax's 65 Dodgers were good enough to win it all despite never across any 7-game stretch outscoring their opposition by more than 20 runs. And finally, here are some other squads who, despite excelling enough to win the pennant, fell short of ever hitting plus 28 throughout any septet of games, let alone somehow pulling it off despite dropping a majority of the games. And as some delightful cherries on top, the kookiness of the 1960 World Series extends far beyond a team putting up such a high run differential and somehow finding a way to come away empty-handed. For starters, of the 14 team games that the Pirates and Yankees combined to play, 3 resulted in 0 strikeouts. In fact, in the classic 7th game, neither team struck out even once. To give that some context, across the ensuing 62 MLB postseasons, there were a total of only 2 such instances. And from 1975 to 2023 specifically, there were 2,642 playoff team games, of which just 1 featured 0 strikeouts. That's juxtaposed against 3 out of 14 here, including both squads in that Game 7. Also, Bobby Richardson rode off with the Series MVP award despite playing for the losing team. His record RBI production came in the wake of driving in just 4 runs from the start of August through the end of the regular season, a total good for less than half of 11 different teammates throughout that time. The guy went from 4 RBI in 58 games immediately to 12-7 when plopped on the World Series stage. His teammate Mickey Mantle chipped in with another 11 RBI, which represented the only 2 instances of a big leaguer driving in at least 11 runs in a single World Series up until 2024 when Freddie Freeman gained membership to that club. So outside 1960, in each and every one of the first 119 World Series that had ever been played, there were 0 players who drove in at least 11 runs. This series had 2, which on its own is eminently outrageous. And not only were both also on the same team, but it was the losing team. And we of course have Mazeroski, the man who'd hit but 3 homers across his final 115 regular season games, a time period covering more than 4 months. That it was the same man upon whom his team relied to overcome a run differential deficit for the ages, thanks to winning not 1 but 2 of their 4 series games with his long ball, the latter of which is perhaps the most permanently etched homer in baseball lore? Well, that's just baseball for you. Thanks for watching Secret Base. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our channel on YouTube. If you want to get a peek at even more stuff and see your name included alongside all these other very smart and good-looking people, subscribe to Secret Base on Patreon.